back to the Cat and Podcast. My name is Grace, and today is Wednesday, May, I almost said March for some reason, May 29th. This is a podcast about knitting, books, baking, and cats, but most importantly knitting, because that is what I love to do all day, every day. I have various social medias that you can follow me on. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. I'm most active on Instagram, so please go follow me over on there if you'd like to see what I get up to during the times that I am not recording. I also have show notes, so links to things that I will be talking about will be in my show notes. If you're on YouTube, the link to my blog is down below, or if you are on my blog already, everything is already there. I'm also a knitting pattern tech editor, so if you know of someone who is in need of or is interested in working with a tech editor on any upcoming knitting patterns, please feel free to send me a message. I would love to get in contact with you and have a discussion, or if you'd like to just find out more information, you can check out the Graceful Edits tab on my blog, which, if you're on YouTube, is linked down below. We have things to discuss. I have a cold brew with some cold foam, and it is very pleasant and delicious, and is not my first of the day. So I should probably not have any more after this. We're a bit light on the knitting today, but hopefully it will still be a fun episode for you regardless. We are a bit delayed in recording. We'll go into that in just a minute. Rusty's asleep on the chair. He's very sweet. It is hot and sunny today, so let's get straight into things so we can start talking about knitting and fun crafty things. If you would like to grab something tasty to drink, something to snack upon, something to craft upon, an animal to snuggle, laundry to fold, whatever it may be, hopefully it's bringing you joy or rest or helping you get through an unpleasant task. I have already folded the laundry, believe it or not, so that's already done. Hallelujah. You can do all of those things, none of those things, whatever it may be, and you can come back and join me for some crafty chat. Whew, everybody, it has been a time. I didn't record this past Monday because it was Memorial Day here in the States, so we were celebrating that. And we've just been, all of really the whole United States, various areas of the United States have just been kind of pounded by various storms. And I'm most aware of the ones in Texas because I live in Texas. But I know it's not limited to just us. I know other places are getting bad storms too. We've just been dealing with bad storms indeed. And so we had bad storms yesterday, and it was super dark. Like I just couldn't get good. I knew I couldn't get good lighting. We know that the overhead lighting is not good in this area. I need natural light from this window. I don't have the fancy lighting that fancy YouTubers have, which is okay. I don't need that. I have the window. So that was a problem. And also, if you don't follow me on Instagram, the week before, which was technically an off week for the podcast, so I wasn't going to be recording anyway, or I guess the week that I recorded last, that Thursday, our general area of Houston, a lot of Houston, most of Houston, got hit with derecho, which was a new to me term. We figured that out. I've learned new things, which is very exciting to me. If you are new here, I love the weather. And learning more about the weather makes me very excited. So that was very interesting. I would not say that it was fun. A lot of people were without power for many days. We were without power for 4 days in total. It was very hot. Thankfully, we were able to borrow a generator from a friend, and so we could keep the refrigerator running, or we could kind of keep it on and then turn it off and keep it on and turn it off, that kind of thing. We had fans, we had a charging station. I got a decent amount of knitting done. But because it was so hot, it was just not very pleasant necessarily to knit. We did have places that we could go to, and so we did go. We packed everything up and took Rusty and everything. I do also know that storms have just hit Dallas. Dallas is currently without power as well. It's just these winds, you know, there's some really intense winds. And there was, in fact, oh, are you waking up? I'm gonna have to move my coffee from the floor. Oh, we're just switching around. It's just such a little sweetie. There was, in fact, a tornado that did hit an area of Cyprus that is not like next door, but it is like within 15-20 minutes of us, which was kind of scary. When the storm hit, it was not a fun time. It was pretty scary, to say the least. But we're all fine. We were very grateful that we did not have any damage to our house. There were many, many large trees and branches that got uprooted and torn down, and other houses on our street did have damage to them, but we were very, very fortunate that we did not. And we only lost power for 4 days, because some people had no power for a long time, and then the storms that came through yesterday knocked out more power. So it's just not a good time, you know. It's just not a good time for whatever reason. And hurricane season hasn't even started yet, so that's exciting. So like I said, I did get a fair amount of knitting done. The first day of no power, so Friday, what date that was, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Not this past Friday, but the Friday before. I pulled out everything that needed to be wound, and that was putting me off from casting anything on. So I just had a big winding party. It was great. And I knew there was a generator coming, so I did use Precious phone battery and listened to an audiobook, which was really nice. Thankfully, I did have good cell service, which was really nice. Sam's was a little spotty. I know that that was not true of other areas in Houston. I know that's not true of Dallas right now, and it's just the things that we rely on that we just take for granted when they're gone and they are not working. It's just well, what do I do? What do I do with myself? Which is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. It's just the way that things are now. So I was grateful for the time. It was really just here's the time to wind your yarn. Here's the time to have a little cast on party, you know, just take this time, try and stay cool. We've got all the blinds shut. We've got trying to stay cool, basically. On top of that, I won't go into this because it's just so dramatic, but literally the day before, we had a bit of a fridge emergency and some leaks and things, and so we were just trying to recover from this fridge debacle, and then this huge storm hit and we were without power, and it was a rough time, and definitely a memorable time for this year. I'm not gonna forget it. I don't think a lot of people will forget it. And it's all okay now. We're on the other side, thankfully, with a lot of help from a lot of people that we're very grateful for. So what was I talking about? Winding up yarn. I wound up a lot of yarn. It was great. So I do have some new cast-ons to show you, and I also have 2 finished objects, one of which is one of the cast-ons that I had, so I'm very excited about that. We've got, this is technically an old, I'm going to say it's an old finished object, because last time I showed it to you I was counting it as a finished object, but these are my Chelsea Knit Picks Felici socks. They're just plain vanilla. Last time I just had the toe left to do on the second one, and so I was counting it as a finished object. These are not completely done. Last time we were chatting, I was not sure about if Nitpick still did Felici. I got some comments, and I also did some research of my own and did discover, thank you for your comments as well, of it's like Felicini or whatever it is, they're micro stripes, which totally fine if that's the look you're going for. I'm sure it's good yarn. I've heard that it's not quite the same like feel as Felici, so that's an interesting fact. Not a bad fact, just a fact. So yeah, these are done. Happy with how they turned out. Love them. Sad that there's not regular Felici available, but that's okay. One of the socks that I cast on while the power was out, one of the nights, Sam's, my husband, his aunt and uncle live very close by, in a nearby neighborhood, and they have like a pretty big whole house generator, and so we were able to go over there. They also had lost power, but they obviously had a whole house generator, which was nice, and so we went over there several times just to hang out, and then eventually we spent the night there Sunday night. And where am I going with this story? I think it was the first night maybe we went over to hang out. I brought some yarn and cast on a new pair of socks. So I am working on my Taylor Swift Eras Tour socks. This is yarn from Mustache that I was given to by my parents for my birthday, and I love this yarn so much. I just really love Stacy's sock base in general, and she's just so good at what she does. But also it's Taylor Swift themed, and of course she's just like, it is truly her era. No pun intended. But so I'm really loving these. I'm using the heel toe do-si-do pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. I'm also loving it. Like, can we even, like, how satisfying is that? If it'll focus, there we go. It's just so satisfying. It's so easy, and it's very easy to memorize. It's very kind of like methodical. It's a 2-row repeat. One of those rows is knit row. It's really great. You do kind of have to like read your knitting and to know where you're doing things and things like that. So if you're not like super good at reading your knitting, it'd be a good way to practice. Would recommend that. But it's not like a completely not paying attention knit. You do have to pay a little bit of attention. Not too much though. I am using Knit Pick's Stroll Tweed for my cuff and my heel, and we'll also do it for the toe. It is a brown. I believe this is Reindeer Heather. That's the wrong ball band. Pecan. I would say I was close, but I am not. Reindeer and pecans are not the same thing. They do have a brown that is called Reindeer. I do know that, which is why I thought it was, but this is called pecan. Yeah, I've just been really enjoying knitting these socks. It's just a very fun, pretty mindless for the most part, pattern. Again, it's heel toe do-si-do by the Crazy Sock Lady. Here's one of the balls of yarn. One very fun thing about Mustache's self-striping is that they come in 2 50-gram skeins. So if you are of the need or want to have matching socks, you are very capable of doing that because you have 2 skeins and you don't have to like switch them and do magic and cutting and things like that to make the stripes line up if you want that. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So this is one of the 50-gram balls. But I'm just really enjoying these. They're very fun. They went super quickly. I think I knit most of the leg, honestly, when we were hanging out in the evening one of the nights. And then I also have a dog hair. My in-laws have a dog, and I think I worked on these at one point when we were over there. Hence the dog hair, which is fine, but anyway, so if you are curious as to what these colors mean, each one does signify an album from Taylor Swift. The only thing that's missing is the new one, the Tortured Poets Department. But the gray, which I do believe is Reputation, could also kind of work for that. It just wouldn't be in the correct lineup. But I love it. I think it technically starts with this green one and then goes all the way down to the dark blue, obviously, but I love it. On the product page on Stacy's website, on the Mustache website, she lines out which one represents which era or album. I probably could go through it if I thought hard enough, but I don't really want to take the time. So I'll just direct you to her website so you can go get a skein of your own and you can enjoy the rest of her yarn because it's also really wonderful. Yes. Also, just would highly recommend the sock pattern. It is perfect for self-striping. Perfect for any kind of yarn really, but it's just, it really shines with the self-striping. It just looks so good. Clean lines. We love a chevron. Not too difficult. It's a good thing to take my mind off of the stinky situation of no power. So that is wonderful. We're going to take a little beverage break and we'll come right back to it. So next up, we'll talk about my final pair of socks for this episode. Everyone. This was very spontaneous, and we do love a good spontaneous. I had intended on finishing this one before recording, but I just did not get around to it. But I did follow laundry, so there's that. As a lot of you may know, or if you don't know, I will explain. So I am not the only knitter in my family. My mom is also a knitter and my sister is a knitter. My mom and I learned how to knit in 2006, 2007, 2006 probably, when we moved to Houston. And my mom has also, and really my sister has also they've been knitting socks as well. My mom has been working on some socks and decided that she wanted to make a pair of the ruffle socks from Summer Lee after I had gifted her her birthday set pair of socks. So she wanted to make another pair for herself because, I mean, she's very capable of doing this, so she can make more socks for herself. And she was also under the weather, and so I offered to, oh, whoa, twist my arm, cast on a pair of socks with her. So I have also cast on a pair of these ruffle, I think it's All the Frills, All the Ruffles, it's something like that, by Summer Lee Knits. This is in her, like, I think it's the Shorties collection, which I've knit so many of those socks at this point. Like, if you're ever on the fence of like buying a collection versus like buying an individual pattern, obviously some of the patterns you can't get outside of the collection, but the collection really do pay for themselves, really. Like, you can get so much out of the collection. So would highly recommend. It's out of the Shorties collection. So I'm making these little ruffle socks. I'm loving them. Oh, Rusty, he's doing his little upside down thing. You're so cute. And here we are. I'm almost done. I'm at the toe. We've started the toe decreases, which is very fun. So I've got my little ruffle. I decided to do a fun little pop of color up at the top and then doing it on the toe. I opted to do the heel in the same color as the rest of the sock. The pop of color is Snip Stroll in the Dogwood Heather colorway. It's kind of like this corally color. And then my main yarn. It's a very, I didn't do a good job winding this, honestly, and this, I wound this forever ago. So the ball is kind of like, could fall apart at any point. I really should rewind it. But I've had this yarn in my stash for a very long time. I've been holding on to it for a special project. And then I finally decided that this seemed like a super fun summery pair of shorty socks, and then obviously would leave some left over to be in a colorwork project or a stash busting project or whatever it may be. So this is Big Sky Yarn Company. This is a fingering weight that I've had in my stash for forever. It is super fun. Look at all those wonderful speckles. And I just love it. But yeah, so I actually was gifted some of their yarn back in sometime in 2020, which is kind of crazy. They very kindly sent me some yarn to knit with myself, and I also did a giveaway, which is super exciting, and they very kindly made me a little like cat project bag, which is one of my favorites. It's over there with the project that I haven't worked on, so I'm not going to show it, but I use it regularly, which is really fun and is just very sweet memories. But I've used the other colorways, and I just have been holding on to this one colorway that I've just really loved, and they're now going to be these socks, and I'm so excited, and whatever else it may turn into after these socks. But yeah, it's just, it reminds me kind of the ocean a little bit with the flecks of purple and pink. They still make incredible yarn, so would highly recommend you checking them out. They're all just also very wonderful people. So, All the Frills sock by Summer Lee. This also kind of reminds me of a jellyfish a little bit, which I think is funny. My Progress Keeper is from Little Bitty Delights. No surprise there. And I pulled this bag out of the deep recesses of an organized, very well organized, I might say, bookcase thing over here. It was my grandparents'. I wouldn't really know exactly what to call it. It's enclosed, but it's kind of like a hutch thing. It's pretty small, but it's my grandparents and I really like it. But anyway, I have all my project bags on 2 of these shelves, and then I've got some other knitting items, crafting items up on the top shelf. But anyway, I pulled this project bag out. It was one of my favorites, one of the ones that I got very early on once my mom and I entered into the project bag world. This is by Stitch by Jessalou. I have many of her bags. They are a favorite, but I think this is a very fun, springy fabric. And segue into the next project. This was containing a project that I also spontaneously cast on when the electricity was out. I did share the yarn with you all last time, so it's not in theory, you might recognize this. But I made the Party Line scarf. Look how cute this is. I'm so happy with how bright and happy it is. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. This is the Party Line scarf by Casey Apple of Young Folk Knits. This was her first pattern, so it's very exciting that she has made her designer debut. The yarn is Suburban Citrus Sport in the hot pink colorway, and it is just so soft and squishy. It is truly fabulous. And no, I haven't woven in my ends, but like, can we even? I love it so much. Like, it's so cute and it's so light and it's so easy to knit, and it was perfect for like these mindless, like kind of enough to like keep my attention, but also not too much to be like, oh my goodness, I do not have the brain power. Because I have another project to share with you that was like all the brain power, and so I needed a nice like combo. I had the socks that was kind of in between a little bit, and then I had this that was like 0. And then I had this really complicated thing that I'm going to show you in a minute. But can we even? It's so cute. I love it. It looks so good, and you can tie it many different ways. You can, it's one of those things that you can make it as long or as short as you want. It's a great pattern. And yeah, so I would highly recommend, if you want a little like instant gratification project, would highly recommend the Party Line Scarf by Casey Apple. It is great. Would highly recommend. I knit it on size 8s, I believe. And yeah, I think this is just such a happy color. And it was exactly what I had in mind. So there are many different ways that you can wear this. But you can play around with it. I'm very excited too. So this is another finished object that are not socks. Look at me go. See, we're getting things done. It's not a pair of socks, but are there other things that I could have finished? Yes. Did I want to? No. So I didn't. I needed to take care of, and that involved casting on 3 new things. You know, you do what you gotta do. It was not the best situation. So I took care of myself in that way. That was my part of my self-care. So that's good. Next up, I didn't work on this really while the power was out because it was just too hot and sweaty to work on anything fuzzy. It was just a bad idea. But everyone, I have gotten to the point where I am about ready to start the ribbing on the body of my Elton pullover. What? Are we so excited? Is this the front? No, that's the back. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna do a couple more, maybe 2 more sets of stripes, and then I'm gonna do the ribbing. I'm so excited. It looks so good. I've tried it on. It fits like a dream. I'm so excited. And it's pre-blocking, and I know blocking is just gonna like make it perfect. I'm so excited. This is the Elton pullover by Joji Locatelli. I'm using Sorella yarn in the I Will Follow colorway and the Dragonfly In colorway from her Gilmore Girls collection. Gilmore Girls, or Goomy Goos, I affectionately call them sometimes. Goomy Goos. Why I do that, I don't know, and I wasn't intending on telling you that, but now you know. You know my secret. I love the Gilmore Girls, so I love having a Gilmore Girls sweater. It was a gift from Sam for Christmas, and I'm just really loving it. I made a lot of progress, really. I mean, last time we chatted, that's where my progress keeper, that's where it was. So I made a decent amount of progress, you know? Yeah, it is just so exciting. I have had a thought, and I do know that the pattern is not like this, and I'm gonna have to like kind of finagle my way through, which is fine. I'm not worried. I don't think I'm gonna have quite enough of my Surrey skein to get the body length and also do technically 20 inches of sleeves, because each sleeve is 10 inches roughly. This is all I have left, and which is fine. I mean, I am not upset at all. I am so happy with it. And honestly, this means I don't have to stripe the sleeves, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what I have to like finish off the body and not worry or stress about the sleeves, because life is too short to be stressed about if I have enough yarn to stripe things when I could easily just knit them plain, and it's going to be perfect. Because so this is all I have of the first skein, but I have a full other skein of the main yarn. And there's a bit of fuzz that it does not look like it came from the Surrey. So I'm just gonna knit the sleeves plain, which I love that idea. Again, it's something I don't have to stripe. I don't have to worry about holding two or having two balls of yarn attached. I will fly through these sleeves and just in time for the hottest part of the year, which is a span of months. But at least I'll be ready to go when it does cool down. So I am very happy with my idea. I'm sure I'm not the only one to have thought of this, but I'm making it work. Here's my yarn combo, which, I mean, like, in theory, I have gotten so much, like, yardage and amount of knitting out of these two skeins. I'm, like, obviously I still have quite a bit left. Because also, like, with Surrey, it's deceivingly, like, it looks like there's not very much, but there is still, like, a decent amount. It's not gonna be, like, a ton, but it's more than you would expect in something like this, because the lines and the layers of yarn are so thin, there's more layers than it actually looks like. So, hopefully that made sense. I don't know if it did, but hopefully it did. But anyway, I am just over the moon with how this is turning out. I'm so excited to be able to wear it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Every time I work on it, it's just so, it makes me very happy. It's a very, like, zen project for me. It's super easy, and really, like, once it's a pretty good, like, beginning sweater, honestly. If you're looking for a non-raglan beginning sweater, say you've done a raglan sweater already and you're like, I'm gonna try something different, this is a great option, because it's a drop shoulder and you've got some interesting construction that is not difficult by any means. It's a very well written. Obviously it's by Hoagie Locatelli and her patterns are wonderful. It holds your hand, and also it just, like, that enables you to have a good learning experience for new construction of sweaters. And yeah, and it's the type of sweater that you could really do whatever you want. You could stripe it, you could not stripe it, you could have 10 different stripes, you could use it for advents, like, really, it'd be great for advents, honestly. The world is your oyster with this sweater, really. Lots of combinations, lots of ways to be creative, so would recommend for seasoned sweater knitters and also beginning sweater knitters. I would highly recommend. Anyway, that's my Elton pullover. Love it. Probably won't be done next time that we chat, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay, we've taken a little bit of a beverage break. So now we enter into the final project, which I have a lot to talk about. Where do I begin? I don't know. At the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Which I say that every time, and then I want to start singing. Because if you know, you know. So everyone, I'm doing another knit along with two friends. They're part of the Monday Knitting Group, and the goal was to knit something that needs to be steeked. And last time we chatted, I had put everything together except for obtaining the pattern, and I was putting it off because I didn't feel like I had the brain space to do it, basically. There were a lot of things that I hadn't like put effort in, such as like color placement or figuring out the construction. I knew that the construction was gonna be weird, and little did I know how weird it was gonna be. So I'm glad I didn't do it at the time, but we'll get into it. I also knew that I needed a really, really long cable, and I didn't really know if I had that available, but then I did some digging because I had the extra time because the power was out, and found my collection of interchangeables, and I also had like a cable extender, so everything's fine. Everything got figured out because I had nothing else to do. And I had my mindless projects, and then I needed my like use every single ounce of your brain power to figure out what is going on. It wasn't as bad. It's not as bad as the Ghosties Fest, I will say, with all the cables and everything, which I still haven't worked on. I didn't work, like, it's just so hot. It's so hot, everybody. It can't go into timeout. I'm not gonna let it go into timeout, but I just have not been inspired to work on it. I am like so close to being done. I just need to do it. So I would say that was using more brain power, different types of brain power. This was more of like construction. What is going on? What am I doing? Great pattern. Do we even know what the pattern is? I haven't told you, but I will tell you in a minute. So, yes. I was gonna say something and I completely left my mind, but the pattern is the Eve's Cardigan by Kate Oates, and she is just so prolific in her pattern designs. I didn't realize this until later than I'd like to say, that Kate Oates is also the lady who designed the Owls sweater pattern that was popular and was like in Knitty like way back in 2008 or whatever, that everybody was knitting. I wanted to make one so bad, I just never got around to it, but it was in my queue for years. I just never got around to it. I could now, and I'd be very happy to, but it was like such a staple of the time, I remember. Such a good pattern. And she just has so many incredible patterns now that I want to make a lot of them. But this pattern in particular, the Eve's Cardigan, came out in 2020, and I remember it was during the upheaval of the world, and I really wanted to make it. So it's been in my queue since 2020. And when this discussion of doing something that was steeked, I was like, ooh, I have many potentially steeked patterns in my queue. And also tossing around the idea of like, do I want to convert a pullover? Oh, someone's dreaming. Oh, yeah. Oh, twitch, twitch, twitch. Oh, he's so sound asleep. Did I want to convert a pullover into a cardigan and also do it that way? That was too much brain power for this time in my life. Will I do it in the future? For sure. For sure. In theory, it's not very hard. I just didn't really want to put in the effort at this point in time, which is okay. That's totally okay. So anyway, I decided on the Eve's cardigan. I got yarn, the main body yarn from Maker and Stitch, which is my mom's local yarn shop, and I would claim them as my local yarn shop, even though I don't live even remotely close. They're wonderful. I do love them very dearly, and they have amazing yarn. So I did have to wind up a few things. I had to wind up some of my main color, and then did I have to wind it? Yeah, I wound up one of my contrasting colors. All my contrasting colors are stash busted, which is awesome. And yeah, so I took the time, and there was 2 provisional cast-ons involved, and I was like, I'm not doing anything else, and things are just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm waiting for a generator to arrive. I have an audiobook to finish. we'll just get this done. I've cast on a sock. I've got that going, or I'm gonna do that later. And I've got this bright pink scarf thing going, and I've done like 3 repeats already. It's wonderful. I will take this time to start this steeked cardigan, and I will say, once you get past the construction and like in the flow of the pattern, it is so easy. So easy. It's just the construction is very odd. With good reason. These shoulders are like seamless. Truly seamless. I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one because I did really good. Because it involved a provisional cast on, and no, my provisional cast on did not work the way it's supposed to, where you just like pull it out like a zipper. It never works, though I've tried. I know it's completely my fault, and no, I haven't, like, I've tried different methods, I've tried different ways, it never works. It also, this is very hard to show what this looks like, but this is the front, so I should do it this way. Anyway, this is my Eve's cardigan. Let me see if I can get this. So because it's like I'm knitting in the round, the neckline doesn't really look like anything, and it's kind of like, what is going on here? But anyway, here's my Eve's cardigan. I've got my steek on the front, and I also have steeks on the sides for my sleeves, which I have not done a multiple steek project, so this is going to be a new one for me of doing the sleeves and the front. I'm not worried. We're just going with the flow. It'll be fine. I'm very, very secure in my feelings about this. I'm not worried. If I'm going to be worried, it's not now. I will tell you that. Because I'm just having a fun time with this color work. Because, man, this is just like, we are just like flying by. Now that I got everything like figured out, I know what I'm doing. Like, it's just so good. Can we even with that? It's just so good. I love it. I pulled several color palettes of like things for the color work, narrowed it down to 1. Finally, I do have extra colors in that I'm using, so I'm not quite following the color chart for the color usages, if that makes sense. So I'm throwing in different colors in different areas, and I may not use all of them in the right places or reuse them in the right places, if that makes sense. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it as you go, because really you do have just like these lines of motifs. So I'm loving it. I've also upgraded my magic loop skills. People, I do not like magic loop. It is not my jam. It is not my favorite. I do not like it. But for some reason, like, because of how this is constructed, unless you have 2 really long circular needles, which would work, but I've chosen not to do that. I've chosen to do one long one because it just seemed easier, and what worked in my brain. I have now become an expert at magic looping, and which is like, whoa, you are super late to the party. What is your problem? And I would say it's not my thing. I do not like it. I have tried it so many times. Do not get me wrong. I have given it shots, any shots. I know how it works. I can teach it to people. I know about it. It's just that I, myself personally, when I do it, is very like, not as intuitive, I guess, as like someone who does it all the time. So if you know me, I'm proud of myself for doing it this way. Anyway, I'm having a great time. I'm really loving it. It is slow going for sure, but there's something just so satisfying of like getting to the part where you have to switch around your needles, and then you can pull one of them and it just all kind of like slides really nicely. And because I've knit a good amount at this point, it's not as like tight and stretchy as it was at the beginning, because it was just so fiddly and so uncomfortable. But that's just the nature, like there was no way around it. It's just the beginning of the project. It is what it is. It is a pattern. Indeed. Wow. It's definitely an advanced, not advanced, I wouldn't say. Adventurous and intermediate, I'd say. With just how the construction is, and like you have all these little pieces that you put together, and it's a little bit complicated, but still well written and quite an adventure. I'm loving it, like I said. It is great. So I've got my steek down the front, and then I've got my color work that I'm just really loving. I'm super happy with my colors. I'm so happy with how they're turning out. And it's just so satisfying with this small gauge. I'm knitting it on a 4. Again, not my first choice, but that's okay because we do what we gotta do to make it work. To get the gauge that is required. And for a steek, like you really want to make sure that it's not too loose. So yeah, I am just, it's very satisfying. I do have to focus, but once I get going, like once I get one row done, usually when I pick this up to work on, I'm good. Like, I will say there have been many is probably too generous. There have been a handful of times, 4 times, 3 or 4 times. Not too many, but definitely more than one times where I've made a mistake in this little colorwork motifs very early on in the row, and I don't realize it until I'm at the end of the row, and then I have to take the whole thing back, and it is not fun. It is not fun. And again, I've done it more than once, but not more than 5, I don't think. So there is that. But it's just part of the process, you know. I am not expecting or holding myself to any standard of not making any mistakes. That is just part of the process. And I'm okay with it. But so my yarn, the main color is Kelborn Woolen's Scout. No, Camper. It's the fingerling version in a gray, and then my contrasting colors, I have the navy skein of Camper. I've got some Barocco Ultra Wool Fine in there. I've got some yarn that I just used for something else, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like a full skein from an advent calendar. I've got Suburban Stitcher in here. I've got Cascade sock in here. I got one more in there I feel like I haven't used. I don't know, maybe that's it. Yeah, that's it. The pattern calls for only 3 contrasting colors in addition to the main color, but I have 5. And like I said, I'm just making it work. Honestly, I'm just kind of like, what have I not used and what would look nice and what do I think would go? There's no real rhyme or reason. I'm not going for anything like super elaborate, planning things out. We're just going by flying by the seat of our pants, as it were. So, that's the Eve's cardigan by Kate Oates. I'm loving it. Now that I've gotten past the construction. Because really, like, once you get past the construction and you've got it established on your needles, all it is a really, really long row of color work. And then once you're done with your color work, you're just knitting in the round for miles. And then you do this like fun cable ribbing at the bottom, which I don't know if I'm going to do yet, but either way, you just have the ribbing at the bottom and then you're done. And then you do the steeking. And then you have like this really beautiful shawl collar, which is super easy to knit. Like that is just ribbing. And the sleeves are plain. And they may have the cabled ribbing on the sleeves as well, I think. So it's like, once you get past, really the construction, in my mind, has been the trickiest bit. I'm not even including, like, I know that I can do the steek, because I've done it before. That construction was a lot. But I got past it, and we learned things, and we're increasing our skills at other things, and and now we're having a grand old time. And I'm never gonna forget starting this with the power being off because we were hit by a derecho and it was so unexpected. It's a good pattern. It's a good project. I'm excited, and I'm doing this with friends, and I'm really enjoying this process now that I've like actually got it started. I think there's also, if I'm being completely honest, I'm now experiencing this, like, you put this off for so long, there was nothing really stopping you, and why were you worried about it? Were you worried about it? And now it's just fine, and I'm having a blast. I love it. It's gonna be so cute. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. In other news, Sam and I have been watching the most recent season of BritBox of Shetland, and the knitwear, everyone, the knitwear. It is such a good show. There is one episode, I think it's like maybe episode 2 or 3. Tosh has the most beautiful sweater on, and I would bet money on it being hand knit, or like the yoke being hand knit and the rest of it being knit on machine, and I'm sure it's knit out of Jameson, and it's like, it's so beautiful. So I am seriously considering recreating that in some way. I'll try and find a picture of it and either insert it here or link it in my show notes, because it's just beautiful. And I can see so many different patterns that are available out there in the world of incredible colorwork designers. The Petite Knitter is coming to mind specifically, and I'm like, Ooh, this is so good. Not Petite Knit, but the Petite Knitter. She's got incredible colorwork patterns, and I think there are several that would be very similar to the one that Tosh wears. Because we love Tosh. Because she's awesome. That's happening. I've also started playing Animal Crossing again, because I'm sure you're really interested about that. I had actually just restarted my island right before the storm and everything, so it was actually really good timing that I had that, because that was also a nice distraction. And once we got the generator in our little charging station, it was just really nice to charge up the Switch. I didn't need the internet. It was great. Loving that. Does cut into the knitting time, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it. So I think that is everything that I have to share. I didn't really work on any of my other sweaters or anything like that. Things were just a little bit hectic around here, and we're getting back to normal. It's all gonna be okay. It's all fine. Practice for hurricane season, right? You know, the time is coming. It is coming. It is close at hand in a few days. Quite literally. Anyway, that is all the knitting that I have for you all this week. I was able to stretch it out longer than I thought I could, so that's really wonderful. It's a regularly lengthened episode for the most part. I have social medias, I have show notes, I have tech editing information. If I have forgotten anything, or if you can't find it, or if you have any questions, or would just like to say hello, please feel free to send me a message on Instagram. I would love to say hi, or supply you with information that I may have forgotten to include. Which does happen. And for crafty plans, I just hope to make progress on everything. Maybe at least finish my little shorty socks. I would really enjoy that. Maybe throw some other things into the rotation, just to make things, have more things going. But I don't know. I just, I can't get socks out of my mind. Really, all I want to work on is my socks and now my colorwork sweater. And I just can't get socks out of my mind. Every time I try and come up with a title for each episode, everything is just socks related. It's sock centric. Which may deter people, honestly. If you're not into socks, maybe that's just not interesting for you. And so if you see another episode that has a sock title, I don't know if you're like, not again. She's still talking about her socks. Which is very fair and valid. But that's just what I have to show you. So I don't know what to tell you. So I'm sorry if I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I've got a bunch of socks to share. Need to get some more projects to show and share it, though, to get that a little bit more diversified. Maybe I need to cast something new on. That's the answer to my problem. That's not really a problem, you know? That's the answer. Anyway, I hope that you've had a wonderful past couple weeks. I hope that if you have had severe weather or big storms or whatever type of weather you may be having, I hope that you are staying safe and either warm if you want to be warm, or cold if you want to be cold, whatever optimal temperature, I hope you are having that. I hope if you have crafty plans, I hope that they are so successful. Yeah, we'll just see what happens in the coming weeks and what may happen between now and next time I record. I'm gonna edit this tomorrow, so this is going up late. I do apologize, but making the decision. I have other things that I need to do today, and editing is not a must do today, and that is okay. Yeah, I think that's everything. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I am thankful. Thank you for being you. You are wonderful. You are enough. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And yeah, happy knitting, especially socks if you're in your sock era as well. Or crafting, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be knitting. Whatever type of crafting, I hope that you are enjoying it. And with that, I will see you all next time. Bye!